It is Friday, so let's answer some questions from the listeners.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. That's at JOHNYJ_15. You also can catch us on wherever you get your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, we're on Odyssey and YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. If you're a first-time listener and you want to know a little bit more about me and this show, I am based here in Kansas City. I work at Sports Radio 810 WHB, currently where I'm doing this episode from. Doing some hosting, co-hosting, producing here Monday through Friday. This is where I am, and Monday through Friday is when we bring you our Locked On Royals episodes, though we do have a reminder that this will be the final week until about February, where we'll have 5 episodes a week. So off-season time for us, we'll be having 3 episodes a week, so just 2 less per week, but still trying to give you as much content as we can, hopefully covering more moves to come for the Royals, and we will always make sure to do a Mailbag Friday. So one of those 3 episodes will be dedicated to you, the listener. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Well, we have well over 30 questions to get to. I don't want to waste any time. So the first question that we have here coming from YouTube is from Mark. The Royals have lots of catching depth in their farm system with Blake Mitchell, Carter Jensen, and Ramon Ramirez. But I want to ask about 20-year-old Hyung-Chan who is the catching prospect from South Korea. So, yes, I believe I pronounced that correctly. I have yet to watch a game where the broadcast has said his name, so if I did butcher that, I do apologize. I've heard lots about him. The catching depth might be the best part about this farm system, mainly because there's just not a lot of high-end prospect talent that they have right now. They've certainly been developing more pitching as the years have gone on, but the catching depth, there's a lot to like there. Now, when you've got a 20-year-old that's in the lower levels of the minor leagues, you can't always read completely into the numbers, but I think that he has the upside to being somebody that I believe down the road, you're talking 2 or 3 years from now, is at least in the top 15 for Royals prospects and firmly in the top 15. So as of right now, I would like to see what 2025 has in store for him. But I do think that from what's been said about him, they're very high on a guy like him. And the Royals have very few times dipped their toe into the Korean prospect market or the Japanese prospect market. So it was good to see that when it comes to adding some talent for their farm system. This one comes from Born Rock Chalk on Twitter. Would you be against trading Carter Jensen away? I know Blake is our main number 1 catcher post-Salvi, but I think he could be good bait. I think that there's not a single guy in that system, with the exception of Jack Caglione, that I'd be against trading, right? That I think is deemed as untouchable. That's not how the Royals view it. The Royals have about 5 or 6 guys that are untouchable. Blake Mitchell's in that conversation. Carter Jensen, I believe, is in that conversation. Wouldn't be surprised if Blake Walters is in that conversation, and Jack Caglione, of course. But if the right move was put in front of the Royals, and we know they're looking for a middle-of-the-order bat. J.J. Picollo has always said, to get a good player, it takes giving up a good player. You're not just going to give your scraps to some team and get an elite frontline guy, whether it be for your rotation or an elite middle-of-the-order bat, without giving up a good prospect, mainly because the Royals don't have that deep of a farm system. They don't have a bunch of top 100 guys. So I'm going to say that I'm not against trading him, but it would need to be a very nice return, because Carter Jensen is one of the guys that I really think is going to blossom in 2025 and may get pretty close to making his debut in 2025. But I'm still putting that timeline in 2026. Mike asked, who's the middle of the order bat you think we get? I've gone back and forth on this so many times. Adolis Garcia, I think, is one of those names that has creeped into my mind a bit more. I read Inside the Crown by David Lesky, does great work as always. I read it every time it pops up in my email inbox. He had mentioned that Adolis Garcia is a name that he keeps hearing. But the problem is with some of the names that have had more smoke, the Jose Rojas, Taylor Ward, Brett Beatty, those are in the middle of the order bats. So if the Royals are going to try to make a trade, I just don't know if there is a definitive guy right now. They might need to pivot to the free agent pool and bringing in that middle of the order bat. I don't think they're going to be in on Teoscar Hernandez. I don't think they're going to be in on Jock Peterson. But I am curious how this next week or so plays out. But right now, the names that I've listed, that feels like the likeliest move. But again, it's been so quiet at the winter meetings, not just for the Royals, but for a lot of teams out there. So until that heats up a little bit, I'm not sure I can lock into a guy that I believe is going to be that middle of the order bat. If I had to, if you're putting a gun to my head, I'll say that Taylor Ward is the guy they get and they could plug him into the middle of the lineup. Patrick King asks, what kind of contract would Bobby Witt Jr. get if he were a free agent this year? Personally think he's so much more valuable than Soto. And I don't think you would be an outcast there. I don't think you'd be an outlier or the anomaly in saying that Bobby Witt Jr. is more valuable than Juan Soto because he finished second in MVP voting. He had a better season all around than Juan Soto did. So would he get the $760+ million contract? I think he'd get damn close to it just because everything about his game is excellent. Whereas Juan Soto, some of his criticism comes on his fielding, his base running, his speed. I mean, he's an elite hitter. He's arguably the best hitter in the league next to Aaron Judge. He's a better hitter than Bobby Witt Jr., even though he's got a lower average. I think all around the advanced numbers, what he's brought to the table the last handful of years, like Juan Soto is one of the best pure hitters that I think baseball has ever seen. But if Bobby Witt Jr. were a free agent, that's a great question. I think he would get damn close to what Juan Soto made. But it also would come down to if Bobby Witt Jr. had like 2 or 3 seasons like the one he just had in 2024. The Mizzler asks, I saw an article about the Royals wanting to keep payroll at 120 or 120 million. Have you seen anything different? Because it seems hard to fill all the needs we have with only 13 million. Following up on that, you mentioned Rojas a lot. Would he be the middle of the order bat then? For Rojas, no. Rojas would take the role of somebody like Adam Frazier or Garrett Hampson. And as for the payroll, I think they can make it work. That's why I think they're trying to trade too. They're not trying to overspend through free agency. If they are going to spend in free agency, you're talking a bullpen arm, you're talking a swing starter, you're talking a bench bat. But that's why I think they're trying to go after that middle of the order bat through trade so they can save some money there. Future Dude asked, thoughts on the Royals Hall of Fame nominations and who do you think is getting in? Yeah, we did an episode last night on that. It was our second segment, went a little bit longer in it too. I do think the guys that are getting in are the ones that I voted for, though I would not be surprised if Yordano Ventura gets in over Joakim Soria, just because of what he meant to the team. Of course, the tragedy that happened, but so many Royals fans loved him. And I think when the votes will be pouring in, he's somebody that would be more popular than somebody like Joakim Soria. So to go back on that, I would have Carlos Beltran, Billy Butler, Wade Davis, Alex Gordon, and then Joakim Soria, but I'm not going to be surprised if Yordano Ventura gets in over Joakim Soria. Next one comes from Aiden. Do you think the Blue Jays would be interested in trading Bo Bichette, and do you think the Royals can make a trade for him? I think they could be interested, but the Royals wouldn't be a suitor because Bo Bichette's going to be a shortstop. Royals have a shortstop. I know that you could talk about moving some guys around, but the Royals have their middle of the infield set. And I think if they're moving a Michael Massey or Jonathan India, that's over to third. So those are the 3 spots that Bo Bichette could play. And therefore, I don't think a deal would ever come in place when it comes to the Toronto Blue Jays and Royals. Braden asks, if you could have one hitter realistically via trade or the free agent market, who would it be? And how would they elevate the team? I think I'm going to continue with what I've said the last couple of weeks, which is Taylor Ward. I think Taylor Ward would fit into this lineup so nicely. I think the ability to play all 3 outfield spots is great for the Royals. I think the bat is something that could translate to the top of the order or the middle of the order. He's got an extra year of control, I believe. Everything about Taylor Ward screams being a Kansas City Royal, but I feel like a lot of small market teams also believe that as well. So I think he feels like the most likely option. I think he feels like the best fit, and that's why I'm going to go with Taylor Ward. And how to elevate the team, I mean, you're talking about 2 significant upgrades in the lineup and Jonathan India and Taylor Ward. I mean, they went through their slumps last year. If they stay healthy, I think that can be anywhere from a top 8 to top 7 lineup in the American League for sure, but maybe you're talking like top 12 in all of baseball, and I think the Royals would certainly take that with their additions of Jonathan India and then maybe down the road Taylor Ward. Eli asks, are you concerned with the lack of buzz around the Royals at the winter meetings? I'm concerned that the middle of the order bat won't be as impactful as it needs to be. Could Teoscar now be an option? Yeah, I don't think Teoscar Hernandez is going to be an option, mainly because I think his price range is far over what the Royals would be wanting to go for. But I will say that I'm not concerned whatsoever about the lack of trade buzz because everything's been pretty quiet. And last year, I had kind of forgotten this too. The Royals were quiet during the winter meetings. The Royals didn't start making moves until the next week. And that's when they signed Seth Lugo. That's when they signed Michael Wacha. They got a lot of those conversations rolling. And then when the week turned over, that's when those moves were made. So to me, I'm not overly concerned right now. If everybody else was making moves and they were taking guys the Royals were going after, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But everybody outside of the Mets, Yankees, and Red Sox have been pretty quiet in making moves. So I'm not going to be surprised if it heats up next week. Okay, we'll get to one more here before we hit break. Josh asks, which of the recently announced Royals Hall of Fame candidates would you vote for? Yeah, we had that in the episode, and I just brought it up. I guess I'll just reiterate that again. Beltran, Butler, Wade Davis, Gordon, and Joakim Soria would be my votes. Okay, we're going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, still a lot of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuning into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Want to give a shout out to our title sponsor today in Gametime. Christmas is almost here, or whatever holiday you may celebrate. If you're getting a gift for somebody, I've thought about buying some tickets for some of my friends, family members, whether it be a concert, whether it be a game. I've already bought one of my tickets to give to a gift to one of my family members, a baseball game in 2025 for where they live. So it was pretty easy for me to do. I just clicked on the team. I scrolled down to the date, clicked that ticket, bought that ticket, and then it was in my inbox almost instantly. So Gametime is my favorite app to use when going out there to buy tickets for whatever it may be. So here's what you need to do. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Those terms apply. So again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It is game time. Next question we're going to get to here comes from CRKSOKC. Don't have another name to go off of other than your username. Bobby and Wacha deals both look like steals, with Soto getting 2 times the AAV. What Bob got and Wacha got getting much less than similar to your pitchers like Evaldi, Severino, and Kikuchi. Is there anyone else on the roster you'd try to extend now because they could be more expensive soon? Pitching's always going to be expensive. And Cole Reagans is somebody I'm willing to hitch the wagon to. I think Cole Reagans is somebody you want to build around for the next handful of years. I know you got Lugo for another year, or actually another 2 years if he decides to, I think, decline the player option that he would have. Walk is going to be here. I would try to keep that rotation intact for the next handful of years, just so you're not having to worry about the front three. So to me, I think Cole Reagans is that guy, because if he has another great year in 2025 and replicates what he did or duplicates what he did in 2024, he's going to be very, very expensive when he hits the open market. Next one comes from Justin. You went a round of golf with 3 Royals, past or present, just have to be living. Who would you pick? That's a great question. I think the first one I would pick would be Mike Moustakas. I think I'll go with Moustakas. I think he'd have a lot of great stories. And he, of those 14 and 15 teams, he was always my favorite. So he would be my pick there. Then I think I would go probably Zach Greinke. I think I'd be so interested to see what Zach Greinke had to say, what his golf game would look like, because of all those funny stories that you read in articles or in interviews. He's a softer spoken guy, but I think that'd be fine to play with when it comes to playing a round of golf. I know my golf game would not be nearly as good as the other two. And then I think the last one I would pick would be, I'm going to go with, I'll go George Brett. I think George Brett would be another great one to golf with. I mean, how can you not pick George Brett if I'm picking 3 there? He certainly would have a lot of stories, and maybe not always ones that involve Las Vegas. But I think in terms of the game itself, would be very fascinating to play a round of golf with those 3. So those would be my 3. If anybody else has an opinion or wants to make a comment on that, let us know in the YouTube comments or let us know in the Twitter comments. But love that question coming from Justin. Mason's question is expectations for Kyle Wright. Any chance he can contribute quality innings next year? Absolutely. I think he can contribute quality innings for this team. Where he will start is the big question there. Is he going to be in the rotation? Is he going to be in the bullpen? I know there are people out there that are high on the idea of him being in the rotation because of his 20-win season that he had with Atlanta back in 2022, but I'm under the impression right now that it's going to be a bullpen start for him. He can try to lengthen out in spring training, but they can slow play this a little bit. There is no need to rush him back, even though he missed an entire season. You want to make sure he's 100% healthy before you would give him an active spot on the roster. And so for Kyle Wright, I don't see that being in the rotation from the get-go. I think you give this team valuable innings coming out of the bullpen, more so in long relief. Think Chris Medlin, the same situation that he had to go through in missing a year. Then in 2015 with the Royals, he was able to join midseason, so not exactly the same scenario. But he pitched in long relief, made a couple starts. I would expect a similar thing for Kyle Wright in 2025. Corn Dog asks, because the outfield bat we are after slugged better than 420, asking for a friend. I will say this, that the Royals being patient with this and not jumping the gun makes me think that they are trying to go after a very impactful bat. And I think that was always the goal going into the offseason. They like Jonathan India and the walk rate and the on-base clip, but for the middle of the order bat, they're wanting a game-changing bat. They're wanting somebody that can really lengthen out that lineup, have some power, and I do believe that's going to be north of 420. I know is more of a comedic question there, but I do imagine this go around the 5-hole to 6-hole for the Royals will be somebody that does have some pretty big time pop. Next one here comes from SPP. How likely is a Brett Beatty trade? Also, how likely do we sign Rojas and Lorenzen? I'll start with Rojas and Lorenzen. Again, I'm going to put that at like 60% right now with Jose Rojas. It feels likely. It feels like that would be the perfect replacement for somebody like Adam Frazier or Garrett Hampson. And I think you could combine the money you gave Adam Frazier and Garrett Hampson and just give it to Jose Rojas. I think he's somebody that give you more production. You can put him anywhere in the lineup. You can put him anywhere in the field. And the Royals need that. They're always going to need that with Matt Quattrell being their manager and having that super utility, flexible guy in the lineup. So Jose Rojas, I'm going to put about 50%. I'll go as far to say that. It feels like that would be a perfect fit for Kansas City. And he's a free agent, and he's 30 years old. So it's not like the market's going to be a giant one for a guy like Jose Rojas. But you never know. Things can change from a day-to-day basis. Michael Lorenzen, right now I'm going to say sub 50% just because we haven't heard much on him. And if he's looking for a 2-year deal, the Royals aren't giving him that. I think the only way Michael Lorenzen returns is on a 1-year deal, and it'd be a cheaper one at that. So to me, I am going to put that under 50% right now, over 50% for Jose Rojas. And for Brett Beatty, it seemed like that was a trade that had been discussed earlier in the week. But again, I'm still going to say sub 50% because he's supposed to start for the Mets right now at third base. And if they're going to trade away a 25-year-old with years of control, they're probably asking for a lot on the Royals side, even with the bad numbers through not really 3 big league seasons, but he's appeared in the last 3 big league seasons. So for me right now, I'm going to put it less than 40% unless things start heating up over the weekend. Jason asks, in your opinion, are the Royals kind of out on Tyler Gentry in favor of Gavin Cross? Also, have you heard any updates on Asa Lacy? No updates on Asa Lacy as of now. I don't think that Tyler Gentry is completely out of the conversation because Gavin Cross hasn't, made it that close to the big league level yet. So I'm not going to say they're preferring Gavin Cross over somebody like Tyler Gentry. I know I just paused there in talking. I just gotten the breaking news update that the Yankees are acquiring Devin Williams, so I kind of lost my place there. So the Yankees, once again, kind of rage pivoting after losing Juan Soto, getting Max Fried and Devin Williams in the span of a week. But going back to that question, yeah, Tyler Gentry, not sure they're out on him. I just don't know where the fit is at the big league level. And Gavin Cross, he's still got to prove he can stay healthy for a full season and put those numbers together at AAA before he could get to Kansas City. But again, no updates on Asa Lacy either. Next one here comes from Derek. Do you see the Royals trying to make a move for Isaac Paredes? Again, I'm just going off of what's been said, what's been rumored, and I don't think there's been any ties for the Royals and Isaac Paredes. So as of right now, I'm going to say no, they do not make a play on him to be their third baseman in 2025. All right, we're going to take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap up our final set of questions next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned into Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter or X at JohnnyJ_15. Our last sponsor of the week is FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. For my pick, I'm going to stick in the NFL here. I will take the over on receiving yards for Jamar Chase in the game on Sunday against the Tennessee Titans. Last set of questions here to close out the week for a Mailbag Friday. It's going to begin here with Aris. What relievers are affordable that the Royals should go and sign? Relievers are always going to be affordable, I think, in that B tier, I guess I would say, not an A tier or anything like that. If you're looking to upgrade the bullpen a little bit, somebody like a Carlos Estevez makes sense for the back end. If they did want to make Lucas Erceg the fireman guy again and not the closer, they could always go after Kenley Jansen, at the latter stages of his career, but still very effective. He's somebody that would make sense. You could also look into somebody like a Paul Sewald. I brought him up on a podcast episode before. I think the funky arm angle would play well in that bullpen. So those guys would always be affordable, and I think there's really no reliever you're really outpriced from. Maybe Tanner Scott would be one of those guys you're just, out of range with. But everybody else you could absolutely make a play on. But I don't think the Royals will spend a ton of money when it comes to adding to the bullpen. I think they'd much rather go with one-year deal guys, bounce-back guys or minor league deal with the spring training invite guys for their bullpen. Next one comes from Michael. I really wish the Royals would trade for Luis Arraez, understanding his limitations, but seems he'd do well decay. Any chance they try to get him? Well, they had interest in the middle of the season, but I don't know where the fit would be now after Jonathan India. I mean, Luis Arraez is a guy that hits for average. That's about it. He doesn't field well. He doesn't hit for any power. He's a singles hitter. He will hit 330, 340, and I know a lot of people would like that at the top of the order, but no, I don't think any deal would be happening. His limitations in the field, I think, would be a big reason, and also I think the Padres would try to leverage too much out of the Royals in trading Luis Arraez. So I'm going to say no on that, Michael. Blaze's question is, with the Royals looking to the trade market for their middle-of-the-order power bat, who are some under-the-radar names they could be targeting that we aren't talking about? Good question there. I would say one of the options they could look at, maybe under the radar, maybe somebody like a Nolan Jones in Colorado could be an option. But again, it feels unlikely that Colorado would dump him off. Looking more so, I'll go back to that. JJ Bleday could be an under the radar bat, but I've brought him up, so I guess that's not really somebody we're not talking about. They could look to somebody like, let's see, they could go to somebody like Miami and try to acquire somebody from there. Jake Berger would have been an option, but Jake Berger just went to Texas. Jesus Sanchez, I believe, is still in Miami, if I'm not mistaken. So he's another name I guess you could look at too. Again, I'm going off the fly there, so I apologize I didn't have a better list there. But to me, if the Royals are going to make a move, it's going to be somebody that we have talked about before. I'd be pretty shocked if they, slip one past us and they've been talking about somebody the whole time and we never even noticed it. This one comes from Dev. We need a middle-of-the-order bat. Does Taylor Ward really accommodate that need? I think it would. I stand by that Taylor Ward would be somebody that would fit in nicely in this lineup, whether it be the top of the order or the middle of the order. So I'm going to stay pretty true to that. Tom's question is, do you think Nolan Jones, just brought him up, is available in trades? Any chance Casey goes to the lower price tag candidate in a trade in hopes for a bounce back? Certainly. I think they could look that route, depending on how the market goes. But, J.J. McCullough mentioned they can take their time with this. They don't need to rush into anything. So if it came down to it, they needed to rely on a bounce back guy. I think Nolan Jones would be a good option. Jonathan's question is, will we sign anyone in free agency for $10 million or more. I'm going to go no on that. I don't think they would sign somebody for $10 million or more. If they're signing a starter, a swing starter, I'd imagine it's under 10. And any bullpen guy, I don't think they'd be giving more than $10 million a year. So I'll say no on that. Sam's question is: any bullpen arms available in free agency that catch your eye? If not, who would you expect to possibly make an impact for Omaha? I love the performance Sisk had last year. I'm going to go Evan Sisk and Steven Cruz as guys that can make an impact. I know Steven Cruz pitched in Kansas City for a little bit, but not long enough to really warrant being in Kansas City all of last year. Noah Cameron's another guy I think could make that jump. Eric Sarantola is another guy I think could make that jump. And then as for free agency, I'll go Paul Sewald, Kenley Jansen, Ryan Stanek's another name that I really like. And then I would say maybe somebody, I think Mike Soroka, too, is another one. Pitched for the White Sox last year, really came on strong late. He was somebody I would like the Royals to maybe give a call to. Waka offseason asked, what would be your dream scenario, Royals free agent signing or trade this offseason? Personally, would like to see Arenado or possibly Kyle Tucker. Obviously, the chances are very slim, but dreaming. If I was dreaming, I'm with you there. Kyle Tucker would be a phenomenal fit for the Royals, but also a phenomenal fit for whoever would get him. Really a contending team at that. But dream scenario for me, I'm going to go back to probably signing Michael Lorenzen as a swing starter. I think bringing in Jose Rojas for a bench bat, getting Taylor Ward for that middle of the order look, and then maybe adding somebody like a Kenley Jansen for the back end of the bullpen would be a dream scenario, just considering what the Royals have to offer, what they're going to be willing to spend. If I'm being realistic, that would kind of be my dream scenario, but maybe I'm not dreaming big enough. Prepsley asks, I think we should try to get Spencer Turnbull. Look at this thread about him. Yeah, Spencer Turnbull, somebody I was really surprised that he didn't fully replace Taijuan Walker in the Phillies rotation. I loved Spencer Turnbull when he was in Detroit. I liked the stuff. So, yes, I think I would love to see him as that swing starter. He kind of was the swing starter for Philly last year. So I'm with you there. I think the Royals could make a call on him, and maybe he is the swing starter they would be looking at. Royals Report asked, do you see any more trades happening this offseason? Absolutely. I think the middle of the order bat will be a trade and not somebody through free agency. RB Carr's question is: more intriguing trade target, Beatty from the Mets, Outman from the Dodgers, or Alec Thomas from the D-backs? All three reportedly available and should be relatively cheap to acquire pre-arbitration. I'm going to go with Alec Thomas there. I know he'd be the most expensive of the bunch, but considering the speed, defensive abilities, what he could be at the top of the order or the bottom of the order, I think that'd be a huge upgrade for the Royals over the other two guys who would really need a bounce-back season for me to be impressed at all with the move. And lastly, Seven asks, can we get a Nebraska-born all-star? I'm assuming you are in Nebraska or you went to school in Nebraska. Yeah, I guess Alex Gordon having those ties in Nebraska would be the last time we have seen somebody have all-star output, if you will, being from Nebraska. But I guess I can't really pick that because unless they draft somebody through high school or through college, or they acquire somebody who was Nebraska-born, we're going to have to wait a little bit longer on that. But don't mind the question at all. All right, that's going to do it for a Mailbag Friday right here on Locked On Royals. I've been your host, Jack Johnson. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen today. For your second, find Locked On MLB as baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll be off the next 2 days unless the Royals make a move. Then we'll have a breakdown episode. So we will see you on Monday. You take it easy, Kansas City.